The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Let's go! What's that? It's gonna be a football game tonight now. No doubt. It's gonna be a football game here. Okay. I done been here before. All right, let's go, baby.
The 9. Rushing 4, ball comes out of the hands of Newton. It's on the ground, and it's still on the ground. Picked up by T.J. Ward at the 4-yard line. Vaughn Miller did it again. Watson, touchdown!
Hunter Renfrow. Little man makes another enormous play. 1 second remaining.
Ladies and gentlemen, football to the max.
Your host, Sean Garmer, Gary Vaughn, and Randy Isbelle.
Hello and welcome to our Super Bowl 51 recap edition of Football to the Max. And this also brings our regular season coverage of the NFL and everything to a close as well. It's kind of bittersweet to already have the ending of the 2016-2017 season, but and all good things got to come to an end, and boy, did this one have a crazy freaking ending. Man, Randy, for one, Randy is here with me. It's been a while, I think, since Randy's been on, because we've been doing a lot of these Friday shows, and Randy's was sick last time too, but hope you're feeling better now.
I'm getting a little better, still a little bit under the weather, got a bit of a cough, and, because I've been so sick, I decided I should take a nap after about halfway through the third quarter, so I didn't miss anything, did I?
Yeah, I think that's when things started happening, but I think it was more the fourth quarter, so as long as you were awake for the fourth quarter.
Right, Atlanta held on to their lead, right?
Yes.
No?
Until that fourth quarter, where they did not hold on to the lead and eventually lost in overtime. 34-28, the first ever Super Bowl overtime game. Won by the New England Patriots. They get the coin toss and do not let up, march right down the field, get the touchdown. Before we start talking about the actual game, of course, this has led to a lot of people saying, okay, now that it's happened at the Super Bowl, this means it's happening, right? They're going to figure out this offseason how to best come up with a way to give both teams a chance in overtime. Do you think that, I think we've talked about this before, but do you think that that's what they should do? I heard a lot of people saying, why didn't Atlanta get a shot? It's not fair. Both teams should get a shot. Or do you like this whole, you get a touchdown, it's over?
No, I absolutely love the way it is now. Listen, if you want the ball, stop them. Now, they changed the rules so that, the other team doesn't have to get 30 yards. To be fair,
Atlanta was reeling on we're not stopping anything for the last...
yeah, and they didn't deserve to win. Listen, if you think you needed the ball one more time... But it comes down to a coin
toss. That's kind of unfair,
no, it doesn't.
Though.
It comes down to hold on to a 25-point lead. That's what it comes down to.
In this case, but not every overtime game does it come down to they just couldn't hold a 25-point lead.
Here's the thing for me, the whole fairness. It was not fair in the olden days when the team, all they had to do was kick a field goal. Because let's be realistic, that's what? They need to go 40 yards at max a lot of the times after a good kick return. Here, they have to score a touchdown. That means they're going 70-some yards, if not more, to then score that touchdown. If you can't stop them in a do-or-die situation, I'm sorry, you've lost your chance.
I think I agree with you in normal situations where you've gone back and forth and
But
both teams have...
It doesn't. Obviously, they've gone back and forth because you're in overtime. The whole
Not
idea of
really. Atlanta has gone from they had the part where the thing that Matt Ryan got hit and fumbled.
Well, no, listen, you're saying like a back and forth, like back and forth and back and forth. This technically really did go back and then forth. It was all Atlanta, and then it was all New England. That technically is a back and forth. But basically the way I'm going to say it is, so what would you rather change it to? Will both teams get the ball once? Well, say both teams score. Well, then the team that won the coin toss still gets the advantage because it's then next team scores. Or should the other team get the ball again? Should we have
No. You're not doing it like college. No.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I'm saying you do each one gets one time, and then after that it's sudden death, like normal, even if you kick a field goal or whatever.
But at that point, it's still the team that won the coin toss gets the ball, that extra possession.
But at least the other team got a shot.
Stop them. That's all I have to say. Listen, you had in this case they were up by 25 and blew it. I don't want to hear anybody bitching that they lost this game because of the overtime rules.
Oh no, I agree with you. That's dumb.
And yes, I mean I will hear any argument on those kind of changes, but I like it. I like the rule change that they made, and I think they made it as fair as possible. Because if you go college rules, then you're basically taking out special teams completely, and it takes out a lot of it, to be honest. So, listen, I saw a stat where teams down by exactly 25 points with 22 minutes to go or less were 0-191 since 2001. And New England did that. Ridiculous. So, as far as the overtime rules causing Atlanta to lose, I don't want to hear it today.
Well, and then I think there was a stat of the team that scores a pick six is 12-0. That got broken. I mean, and there's so many others too, and nobody'd ever come back for more than 10 points.
That's.
I mean, not even 15, 25 points. I mean, for God's sakes, it's not like Atlanta's defense was just horrible. It's just, well, number one, the Patriots defense finally started getting to Matt Ryan, which they realized that, we're going to have to start sending an extra guy because the four-man that Atlanta's getting there with is not working for us.
What was the stat that surprised you more in this game? I've seen them all before, but the fact that we went 50 Super Bowls before we finally got our first overtime game.
Yeah, I know I heard that last year too, and I'm just like, my God, really?
Or the fact that any team that's ever been down by 2 touchdowns has never come back. Like 10 points was the biggest deficit until this one. That to me just blew my mind that no time in half of a century was a team able to come back from more than 10 until today. That's a crazy stat.
I mean, both of them are pretty crazy. I mean, that 3 Super Bowls, not let alone just one, the biggest deficit was 10, including one where the Patriots were already involved. And then you have the biggest where the overtime hadn't happened for the other freaking Super Bowls either. And Tom Brady throwing 62 passes, which I didn't even realize he threw 62 passes until the game was over, and they threw that stat. I was like, oh, geez, really? It didn't feel like he did. But for me, I think, it's almost sad. It's sad in a way because I think for the whole season, people were wondering, oh, God, we're going to get a repeat of the Falcons of last year where they just imploded in the regular season. Well, here they go, play a beautiful playoffs. Matt Ryan, who'd been like 1-4 in the playoffs before the playoffs started, they go and they beat Seattle again. They absolutely destroy the Green Bay Packers. And then they come and get the Patriots, and they're up 28-3 in the middle of the third quarter. We're not even talking about halftime here. We're talking, I think, like 8 minutes and change in the third quarter. And the Falcons can't hold that lead. I mean, look, I get it. The defense gets tired, and that defense had plenty of opportunities where, like, I think they had on the same drive, they had like 5 passes of Brady's that got tipped, and just nobody happened to be there on the rebound. And then the one time he was is when Edelman makes that ridiculous catch that goes off the foot of the defender, and he's able to catch it. I mean, that catch was ridiculous. Oh my God! I don't think we've ever seen anything like that. Just it stays on his foot so that Edelman can bounce it back up to himself and catch it. Just wow.
Yeah, that definitely is the play that's going to be remembered. But the thing that is going to kind of be forgotten, and you brought it up, was just the fact that even though Atlanta was dominating the scoreboard, New England was slowly dissecting them, and that's why New England is so ridiculous. And Tom Brady is just, to me, the greatest of all time. Is they never worried, even though they're down 25, because they knew their game plan was working. They were wearing out the Falcons. You saw that at the end of the first half, where even though it ended up being a pick six, how many times on that drive that ended up going 6 the wrong way did you see an Atlanta secondary member get a defensive holding call on a crucial third down just because they were gassed and they had to do anything to hold on to a Patriots receiver to not get blown? I mean, that 12-play drive there, and then they get it back and go 11 more to end that. They're on the field for a good 9 minutes of game time. Who knows how long? And were completely gassed, and then you could just tell in the second half they had nothing left. And unfortunately, other than the one drive by Atlanta where they're able to get in the end zone, the offense kind of sputtered. And the crucial one, the crucial drive that everyone's going to talk about for the next week or so for Atlanta, the one where we go, okay, that's the Atlanta we've been waiting for all year, was the drive where they got themselves into field goal range, up by 8, and then made mistake after mistake to then pull themselves outside of field goal range and had to punt. So instead of having a chance at a long field goal to go up by 11, they punted it away and then just watched Tom Brady do his thing.
Yeah, I mean, they also, who knows what would have happened if Blunt doesn't fumble, because the Patriots were marching down the field at that point.
Yep.
And Blunt fumbles, and then everything changes. And even then on the one where Alfred runs the 82-yard pick six, Brady is having to rely on 2 consecutive defensive holding calls to get first downs. That's how bad it was, because guys were just dropping the ball. I think they had like 2-3 consecutive plays on that same drive where Edelman dropped it, or White almost had it, got it knocked out of his hands, or on some ridiculous, like he's falling backwards and having to make this crazy play, but still, he had it at one point. And, Amendola had it, got knocked out. Like, that was happening a lot. Everything was just going wrong for the Patriots. The whole reason why they had to do 2-point conversions twice, because Gostkowski's extra point didn't even register close to the same stratosphere that he kicked the ball. It, bounced off the freaking right upright. Just wow. And it was just comedy of errors happening in that first half for the Patriots. And then even when they couldn't score the touchdown and they had to settle for that field goal that they got. I mean, it was like, man, this is set up for the Falcons to just come in here and steamroll the Patriots in the second half. And they got it for the one touchdown, and then after that, it's like nothing. And yeah, and then the Patriots were smart. They kept Matt Ryan off the field, and when he was on the field, they finally go, oh, well, let's get in his face a little bit, see what happens. And they figured out how to stop Devontae Freeman on the ground, which helps. So, I mean, it's like they made those adjustments, and Falcons didn't know what to do at that point either.
Yeah, they definitely made the adjustments on defense, like you said, bringing more pressure. But to me, it's still how long they were on the field on offense. 93 offensive plays, and we were talking about it all that entire first half. How Atlanta only had to bring 4, and they were just finding ways to get to Tom Brady. I forget the number that they kept showing, how many times he got hit. I believe it was in the 20s.
Mm-hmm.
How many? But you're out there for so long. All of a sudden, I talked about the secondary having to hold on to people, but that defensive line's going to get tired, and bringing 4 is not going to do it. And you saw that going into that fourth quarter, as Tom Brady's starting to get in the groove, he has a tremendous pocket because, just everyone on that defense had to be completely gassed for Atlanta. They put everything out there, and the game plan worked. Obviously, the game plan was not to go down by 25, but it was the whole plan by Bill Belichick was keep Matt Ryan and that high-powered offense off the field. Let's wear down this defense because they have a lot of speed on that defense, but we keep them out there, we wear them down, that speed will go away, and then we can do whatever we want in the second half.
Oh, yeah. And it, like you said, it worked. I wouldn't say perfection, like you said, because obviously that's not your aim to go down by that much. But I really do feel like the Falcons still had many opportunities to put it away defensively, and they just couldn't pick up the ball. They couldn't hit Brady at the right time, or when they did, it just didn't fall to where there was a Falcon player there to grab the ball. And it's unfortunate because even then, Julio Jones makes one of the most ridiculous catches you will ever see. There is no way he should have been able to put his second foot down to tap it before he goes out of bounds. Just, my God, that man is insane.
Yeah, he had a catch like that in the first half that I thought was ridiculous, and then he had to top it with the second one. It's just, he only had 4 catches, and 2 of them were just unreal.
He is, I don't know, I know, Antonio Brown probably catches a bigger clip of stuff from Roethlisberger, but Julio Jones is just on another level when it comes to the actual skill of being a wide receiver, like the technical stuff of it, I guess. I don't know where you lie on the whole who's number 1, who's number 2 thing, but like when I see stuff like that, I'm like, I don't know how you can't say Julio Jones was the best receiver in the league.
It's just so ridiculous. Talent-wise, it's tough to really compare. Because obviously we see them on different teams and different structures, and obviously, he only has 4 catches here, but who else was really out there? Gabriel and Sanu had decent games, but you'd know that the game plan's to stop Julio. But as far as talent-wise, if he's not number 1, he's top 3.
Right, yeah. He's definitely that 1A guy, and it just
watching the skills competition and watching what Odell Beckham Jr. could do. It's tough to say that Odell couldn't make those kind of catches, but Julio's just ridiculous.
I think it's because of Julio, like his size, and you look at him and go, man, this is a big guy.
Yeah,
he should be this acrobatic, and it's like, nope. There you go. There you see him do that kind of stuff. It just, I feel bad for Matt Ryan in a way, just because this was like that old grizzled veteran just wanting to say, look, ain't your time yet. Just in your time yet. I'm here, and I'm going to get me one more before I hit that time where I'm not the same. You'll have your shot, youngin'. And just, he got it snatched from him. I don't know, but I kind of feel bad for him. He put on a heck of a performance, too.
Yeah, he had a really good game. He has that crucial fumble, but you can't really blame him. It's just great pressure. Yeah, they just couldn't get it done. I mean, obviously, him taking that sack in that drive where, like I said, they were up 8 and they went out of field goal range was a crucial mistake. But listen, I thought the performance he was putting on in the first half was phenomenal. It just they couldn't continue it for another 30 minutes.
So, I mean, looking forward, I guess, outside of the game itself, I mean, because I don't. Is there something else from the game that you want to?
Well, I just wanted to give out a shout out to James White, who, if his quarterback wasn't named Tom Brady, would have ran away with the MVP. I mean, first person ever to score. He scores 20 points for the Patriots, which is a Super Bowl record. He gets 3 touchdowns and a 2-point conversion. Had 14 catches for 110 yards. They couldn't do anything on the ground. That's just been the Patriots all year, but he does get 2 rushing touchdowns on top of it. Just one hell of a day, and he worked extremely hard. And a play that's going to be forgotten, but I thought it was pretty clever right there at the end of the fourth quarter where it looked like the Patriots are going to kneel and go to overtime, and they do that fake with the whole field or the whole offensive line going to the left. It was, I believe, it was Dion Lewis, right? That was running behind that, and he caught his knee. And
yes,
obviously, I feel bad for him. One, that he injured himself on that play, but I wanted to see if he could be able to cut back and do something with it because I've never seen anybody ever run that kind of a play, and it was cool to see until the injury.
Yeah, they're just saying he injured his hamstring. I'm not seeing anything of how bad it is. Hold on, he talks about.
Well, you look it up. I will have to say that I do feel bad.
Yeah, it just says it's a tweak, but I mean, I'm sure
okay,
because of
good.
the fact that it's the end of the season, they weren't going to do some big X-ray on him right now.
Well, that's good. But I do feel bad because when I watched the play and I watched him do his little jump, I honestly thought he was goofing off, going, well, this play didn't go all the way. I'm just going to jump out of bounds, and then never got up. So I felt
that's what I thought, too. I was like, did he just decide that he was going to do some crazy spin out of bounds for no reason whatsoever? And then you look at it, and he had dug his foot so hard in the turf to try to stop himself that he accidentally dug in too far, and it just got stuck or whatever, and it caused him to fall down. But, I mean, I think that's the thing, is everybody figured, okay, Dion Lewis is the guy we're going to be talking about now that he's healthy again, whatever. I mean, like Garrett Blount fumbles, and he kind of gets into the, how Belichick is. He's no tolerance for that stuff. And it was Dion Lewis and James White pretty much on the field after that. And James White just kept getting, that thing we talked about with the Freeman and Coleman, what we thought that the Falcons might do. The Patriots just said, okay, we'll give you a little taste of your own medicine, and I'll just throw it to James White right there in front of me and see if you guys can stop him, or I'll throw it to him a little thing in the flat or a screen or whatever, and can you all stop James White? And the answer was no, except for on certain the cases where, it was really obvious and he'd get injured or he'd get knocked back for a bunch of yards. But 14 catches, 20 points by himself, just absolutely amazing what this guy did. Malcolm Mitchell, too, he caught some and that whole receiving core was, obviously they had drops, but each one of them had some big catches at certain points in the game where, you could have rightly said each one of them played a big role too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I mean, so moving forward now, I know we heard it. I'm sure you did. I watched the post game for a while on NFL Network, and I think I watched it. I think I ended up watching it twice because they just repeated it. Of talking about where does Bill Belichick stand, where does Tom Brady stand, where is Tom Brady in the conversation beyond just quarterback but moving into best player, period, and all that stuff. I mean, is it just now there's no absolute question about it. The best coach and best quarterback are Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, or do you think that there's still a conversation to be had about that?
As far as coach for Belichick goes, to me, I'm not old enough to really, have the best judgment on that. I mean, obviously, what Vince Lombardi did, winning the first 2 Super Bowls and winning a ton of championships before, the Super Bowl era. I mean, he's regarded as the greatest. I don't know his history well enough, but in my lifetime, there's been nobody like Belichick, what he's really been able to do. Yes, listen, I'm a Jets fan, so I make fun of the Patriots every time any kind of scandal happens. But you know what? At the end of the day, at the end of their career, when we look back, they didn't do anything that any other team wouldn't have tried to do or had tried to do. It's the same thing. I'm a NASCAR fan. And a lot of people hate Jimmy Johnson because he wins all the time. And they get hit with penalty infractions all the time. And the fact is, you always try to straddle that line between, advantage and illegal. And, the Patriots do that better than anybody. They get caught for some things, and everyone will, call them big cheaters, but they win. And it's not because just of that. And they're not the only ones that do it. But he comes up with some amazing packages and game plans that, obviously win. And yes, you could just say, well, he had Tom Brady. Well, I mean, that's the same thing you say about any coach. Phil Jackson had Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. So he's not considered
Scottie
the best.
Pippen and, Shaq.
So,
and
you have to have the players to make the game plans work. And he's going to be the first to say that.
I know, but the thing that's great about Belichick is, okay, he has Tom Brady, but who else does he have?
He comes up with amazing ways. So at least in my lifetime, he's by far the best, if not the best of all time. Again, there's a lot of those old school coaches that I don't know as much about as I do quarterbacks. But to me, as far as Tom Brady goes, I thought he was probably the greatest of all time before the season. 4 Super Bowl rings. He'd been to the most Super Bowls. Just some of the things that he was able to do. And I think he just solidified it here with just shattering all sorts of records here, throwing it in the face of Goodell, if you will. 5 Super Bowl rings. It's going to be tough for anyone ever to match that. So to me, greatest of all time.
Yeah, I think without a doubt now, quarterback is it's Tom Brady, and then now there's something in between Tom Brady and Joe Montana. I mean, it's like, look, Joe Montana has the perfect record as far as 4-0 in Super Bowls. He has all the stats. He has the never threw an interception, all that kind of stuff. But look at Joe Montana, who he played with, and look at the body of work of Tom Brady and who he's had to throw to and who he's had running the ball. And he's never had this. I mean, LeGarrette Blount gets all these yards now because there's games where they just literally run it down your throat and that's all they do. But, he's never had, I think Corey Dillon might have been the best running back he ever had, the way that has a name. He had a couple of years where he had Randy Moss, but aside from that, it's been guys like Edelman, Welker. I mean, I don't want to make this a race thing, but the Patriots have made the small white guy receiver like an actual commodity. You kind of need to have one of those guys now. They don't have to necessarily be white. You can have a black guy that does that too. I'm just saying, I think you get what I'm saying, Randy. But the Cowboys, Cole Beasley, that's what he pretty much is. There's other teams that have it, maybe not as prominent as Beasley, but they have a guy kind of like that. And it all stems from that system of, Brady just takes whoever he has, they stick them in who who's ever would have thought about talking about Kevin Falk or, pretty much the equivalent of today, James White, or, Shane Vereen's over there with the Giants making money because of what he did with the Patriots. I mean, the scat back that comes out of the backfield and you can throw him the ball and he's going to get you 20, 30 yards or whatever. I mean, there's so many things that come from something that Belichick designed or something that, Brady kind of just keeps going back to and it becomes this thing. I think for the coach, I agree with you on the same deal, right? We're only a certain age. I love going back and watching the NFL film stuff on Vince Lombardi and hearing, more of his history as much as I can, go back to that. Of course, you have a girlfriend that's a Packers fan, so sure you hear about that kind of stuff all the time, but, even going to the Tom Landrys and the Chuck Knowles and all that stuff, and there's guys that probably we wouldn't mention just because, we don't pay attention to those teams as much, but like, the Paul Browns and everything else, but I think coach is a little murkier, but still, it's hard to say in the modern era, like, man, there's a better guy out there than Bill Belichick because he delivers every time in the regular season, the postseason. He is the, Greg Popovich of the football. He's Mr. Consistent, and that's all you can hope for in a coach. I mean, it's just consistently getting you there every time. But where do you think I think obviously you have to put Brady in that conversation, but is he like top 5 for you now, or is that still a closed off thing as far as the greatest player?
See, when you get to greatest player, it's so tough to. Are we talking talent wise? Are we talking skills? Are we talking career? Because it's the same thing you have to do with Hall of Fame, and obviously, I don't think he's ever had the greatest arm.
Right.
As far as just quarterbacks go, so like physical skills, he's not there, but. Obviously, the quarterback's the most important position. I have him number 1 by far there. So technically, I guess in a way, you have to say he's the greatest player that ever lived.
I think definitely you make the case that right now you're looking at it in that sort of purview of the quarterback is more important now than ever. I think, but if you're looking at, but there's times where that quarterback's not on the field, right? And there's times where yes, he has more control over everything than everything else because he's the one actually getting the ball to these receivers or whatever. So, like, without Joe Montana and Steve Young, where is Jerry Rice? Is he still, the great guy? Of course, he went to Oakland and still produced. But, it's then defensively, you got all these, great defensive players. They didn't need necessarily somebody else. They just came and a Reggie White, a Lawrence Taylor, they were just game changers by themselves. They didn't need other guys there to really just make them great, right? So
yeah. No, I agree.
That's hard for me too. I don't know. I'd really have to sit there and even think about. Because I don't normally ever really think about these things, honestly. I kind of have some players that I really respect. And I think anybody that you still want to throw around that whole crap about Spygate and all that, whatever, that's fine. But I don't think you can sit here and talk about, oh, well, Tom Brady's not one of the greatest or whatever because of that. I was somebody that's a Broncos fan was being a total, shithead about that constantly in our in a group that I had a Super Bowl discussion thing in there. And I think those are just the people that are just the noise talkers at this point. They just want to be the people that stand on that island. And every year, I think that island gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And it's so hard. I don't ever really just think. Look, like you said, right? Everybody tries to figure out how they can cut the corner. And Bill Belichick's just the master of the cutting the corner.
Mm-hmm.
but that's what you do. Like, when you're trying to come up with a strategy, how are you? You're going to try to come up with that. How do I get a leg up on the other coach? How am I thinking that he's not thinking? And sometimes that means you might have to do something that's right on that line of, I shouldn't be doing this, but it's technically not against the rules. And until they tell me it is, then, whatever, right?
Yeah. I mean, hell, Pittsburgh got hit with the deflate violation where they looked into them this year. So, every team does it. That's all I'm saying.
So, for the Falcons, obviously that group is so talented and everybody's so young. Do you feel like we're getting I didn't get that vibe from Matt Ryan when he was talking. He obviously acted much differently than what we saw from Cam Newton last year. Much more professional, didn't leave the conference. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that affected everybody. Dan Quinn was like, this hurts really bad and everything, but he had to stand there and talk. And do you feel like Atlanta's going to be back here next year, or?
Well, that's the thing. The NFC is so much tougher to predict than the AFC. You look at your Cowboys and the young stars that they have there. You look at Seattle, who always seems to find a way to be in the mix. You look at Green Bay as well, and a few other teams that are kind of knocking on the door and trying to find a way there. Does Winston take that next step? And I just, as you were bringing this question up, I quickly looked up the opponents next year for Atlanta, and their schedule next year is brutal. So, their road is difficult. They get the AFC East, so they get the Patriots again. My prediction for the opening game next year.
Oh yeah,
because it is in New England, which that's who's hosting the opening game, and so I'm going to guess Atlanta versus New England will be our Week 1 game on Thursday. But obviously they get their division games. They get the NFC North, so they get Green Bay and Minnesota, who aren't pushovers. And then there are two extra games that you get based on where you finished division seedings. Your two extra games for Atlanta are the Dallas Cowboys and going to the Seattle Seahawks. It's a tough schedule for Atlanta. We're a long ways away from next year, but when you're saying they get Dallas and New England and Seattle and Green Bay on top of their division, saying that they're going to be right back in the Super Bowl next year is tough to say.
Yeah, I think it's tough to say for them too. I think definitely, this is going to affect some of these guys, and it's all in being young or younger. You have to see how this. Is it going to motivate you to get that far and not win? And how many of these teams that make the Super Bowl have we seen just like this year, right? Neither one of them made the playoffs. The Panthers or the Broncos. Are the Falcons another one of these teams that goes through that where they don't make it? Even the Patriots have done this before where they didn't make it after a Super Bowl. I think it was in some of the early ones. But, It's all about how you take it and how it motivates you and everything else. And I think definitely you're looking at another 5 years of this Atlanta team being a powerhouse if they can keep things together and not lose guys from free agency that are really pivotal and whatever. But, and going into the new stadium next year and everything. But I don't, other than, I don't know, you want to call this a choke job. I hear people saying this is worse than the Warriors 3-1. Does that rank right up there with you for that?
It has to. The fact that no other team ever came back from more than 10 points, and you gave up 25 points. So, I hate to say it, but yeah, technically it is the worst choke job in Super Bowl history, just statistically alone. And it's the crazy thing because it wasn't, they had the one turnover with the fumble, but it wasn't like all of a sudden Matt Ryan was throwing it all over the place and throwing picks left and right. So it's like I said, it's a bit difficult. And I will also say, just looking it up, they're going to have some money issues as far as Atlanta goes with some of these young players over the next few years. Trying to find spaces for them.
Yeah, I mean that's always what happens. You get to the Super Bowl or you win the Super Bowl, and you're going to start getting players that want more money. I'm sure the Patriots will get certain players that are.
I think they'll be pretty fine going into next year, but all of a sudden, with anything, people are going to go, okay, now it's my turn, and now I want paid. So it's with everything, it's okay. I want my money, and I'll go somewhere else to get it if I have to.
Right, like Seattle just started feeling the brunt of that last season, and I'm sure they will feel more of it going into this season too. Where now they got to start playing these guys that they were benefiting off of them having those rookie contracts or whatever, or those contracts where they weren't getting paid anything because they weren't really as known as when they started winning the championships or getting to the Super Bowl and whatever. But I think, I guess the other question that seems to be on everybody's mind in talking about these, post-game talks here is, do you think that Tom Brady might give any kind of consideration to retiring, or do you think?
As a Jets fan, I really hope so.
I mean, they were talking about another extension for him today.
Yeah, before the game, they were talking 3-4 more years, is what Tom Brady felt like he had left in the tank. The way he played today, he sure looks like it. But he's going to have to sit down and look, kind of like what Ben Roethlisberger is doing. I don't think Roethlisberger is going to retire, but he's even considering it with all of the stuff that his body's gone through. But what better way to go off into the sunset than you now have 5, which is more than anyone else. You had the greatest comeback in Super Bowl history. What better way to go out than that? I mean, to be honest, especially when the last thing we saw of Tom Brady was, before the celebrations and stuff, was him, at midfield with 5,000 reporters around him while, he was breaking down from realizing that he just won his 5th, and being surrounded by Belichick and LeGarrette Blount, being there for him, and just that moment and that look at Tom Brady. If he feels like he has 3 or 4 more years left, by all means, go for it. But a picture perfect way to go out if he feels like it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Going out on top, very much like Peyton Manning did, and we've seen various other guys do it as well. Of, okay, do I want to retire where I just had one of those, 8-8 seasons, or we made the playoffs but we're knocked out in the first round and then that's it. I think Roethlisberger he was heated at the situation and the whole, oh man, we fell to the Patriots again. And like you said, yeah, his body's been through a hell of a lot. I'm 37, I think it is, with Roethlisberger. Do I want to retire? I think he comes back just like we've seen Larry Fitzgerald says he's coming back now. And that probably means Carson Palmer's coming back. And so, Brady Peyton Manning was flat out just, it was obvious he didn't have it anymore by then, and he had no problems kind of saying it right there in those press conference deals. But I think Brady knows he's still great, and why not try to keep going for number 6, number 7 to see how many you can get before you go. I wonder if Belichick would consider leaving once Brady retires. I wonder if you get a Phil Jackson situation or whatever, or he just keeps on until he just doesn't feel like doing it anymore. But that should be an interesting case for whenever that happens. But this is one of the greatest games I've ever watched. I don't and then like part of me never felt like the same thing with you where the Patriots. Part of me, I kept saying to myself, okay, the game's over now. The game's over now. The game's over now. And especially when they went up 28-3, I'm like, okay. I started wondering, well, do I need to change the channel? Do I just start doing stuff on my computer and kind of half watching it? And I don't know. I never took my eyes off it, but I can't say that I was as confident as the Patriots were.
Yeah, I was right there with you when Atlanta went up 28-3. To me, that was the nail in the coffin. Not just because they were up 25, but the fact that they went out and they were the ones that drew first blood in the second half. And just to me, at that point, it felt like, okay, New England tried to make an adjustment and it didn't work. And here we go. Atlanta's on to another Super Bowl route that we've seen in many a Super Bowl where the game just, doesn't live up to the hype. And to be honest, I never really got into the Super Bowl hype at all. Like coming into Sunday, usually it's, okay, here we go. It's Super Bowl Sunday. It's great. Like this whole week, I mean, a lot of it's been because I've been under the weather, but like it came to Sunday, I was like, well, I have a football game to watch, I guess. I was never that pumped up for it. And then the way that second half went down and finding myself just going, oh, they scored, that's kind of cool. And then that fumble, I went, well, if they score here, at least it's going to be interesting. And boy, was it ever interesting, that's for sure.
That's what I was in Twitter chat with some folks, Eric Watkins and a few other guys from the Football 5 and other podcasts here on the W2 Network, that I was like, watch this freaking get interesting. And everybody was like, oh, God, please don't. I don't want the Patriots to win. Like, curse you for saying that. And I was like, it's coming, guys. I don't think this is over. And I feel like, the Patriots never like shut down after that. And then when they score and they get that field goal and then here comes the touchdown to make it 28-20, I'm like, oh, whatever you're writing, you might want to rewrite that right now. Like, just this is a different game. And man, to make that comeback, it's absolutely crazy. And we're sitting here, talking about a 25-point comeback in the Super Bowl for the Patriots. Ugh.
Which, listen, I'm a Jets fan. I don't want to talk about a Patriots victory, but at least we had something like this happen, so I didn't have to come on the podcast and say the most interesting thing that happened was the Lady Gaga halftime show.
How did you...
at that point, to me, that was the best part of the whole thing. I thought she did a great job. I mean, maybe it was just because I was expecting her to do some crazy political, display or, take the stage and do something crazy, and it was just a straight up performance. And I loved that, she just went from song to song to song. There was one point where there was a small 3 or 4 second downtime while she did a quick change. Other than that, it was just hit after hit after hit from her. No guest stars. She didn't need them. I'm not a huge Lady Gaga fan, but to me, she was one of the perfect fits for the halftime show just because her music, it's so different. I mean, different hits just sound completely different. You have slow, you have crazy dance hits and stuff, and I thought she just completely rocked it. And I love the fact that she did everything live. I mean, you could definitely tell she wasn't lip singing at all because there was a lot of times you could definitely tell she was out of breath the whole time.
Oh yeah, the one where she's the slow song. You could tell every time she takes in a breath, you could hear it, and you could feel it.
Absolutely, it was a wonderful performance, and all respect.
And just one outfit, she didn't go try to change outfits or anything like that.
She changed a little bit, or like all of a sudden you saw her tummy.
Right.
Because the only reason I haven't noticed that was because the girlfriend had went, oh well, at least she's not going to have a wardrobe malfunction because she isn't changing, and then the moment she said that, she did. So.
Yeah, you could see. I mean, I like the thing with the bungee cords where she was up there floating or whatever in the beginning, and then she comes down, and they have all the fireworks and the dancing. And I mean, I am kind of one of those Lady Gaga fans. She played all her old hits. I was surprised she didn't have anything from newer-ish, other than I think Born This Way or whatever. But still, I mean, it was. I mean, that's kind of what you do on those things. You play the songs that people are going to know the most to keep them interested and keep everybody from, keep those fans that are down there. I like them holding different things and the different lights. And when she did the slow song, they had the thing that looks like they're holding to kind of represent the lighters and all that. Yeah. I mean, it was a really cool halftime show. One of the most entertaining ones I think they've ever had since they went into like the modern era of halftime shows, I guess. And they apparently said this year they admitted that the reason they've had this string of female artists is because they really are just trying to appeal to the female fan with these things.
Yeah, I get it. It's totally that. I mean, that's what the commercials were there for.
Right? Yeah. I mean, the commercials, which, I mean, I love the Melissa McCarthy one. That was funny.
There were a couple chuckles. There was a couple poignant ones. Obviously, we had a few political ones. It's whatever. People are going to their point. But all in all, I think the commercials, like if you graded them as a whole, were very subpar this year. And
I agree.
Was there even a Doritos one? Like
no,
I'm sure I spaced off a few times. And the first half, I was at my bowling Super Bowl party with my kid, so we were kind of, using the commercials to make sure he wasn't destroying something. But yeah, like I don't think I saw a Doritos commercial the whole game, which usually they're the ones that bring their A game. So
yeah, I agree. They didn't. He had a lot of the usual suspects, some movie stuff or whatever. The Stranger Things 2 that pissed you off. But
don't get me started. Do not get me so hyped about Stranger Things 2 and then tell me it's Halloween. Do not. You realize this is the beginning of February. Like, they started this, and it was just perfect timing because I watched it shortly after it came out because I bought into the hype and absolutely loved the show. And just because I've been sick and watching a lot of stuff, went, screw it. I'm going to rewatch Stranger Things. It's 8 episodes, and binge-watched Stranger Things, and I just finished it yesterday again. So here it was, Stranger Things 2. The girlfriend and I had just talked about, probably a summer thing, probably after they do House of Cards and stuff. I think that's when it came out, was summertime last year. Nope, Halloween. Fuck you. No, then don't tell me until the NBA championship game. Don't show me a teaser till at least the NBA championship game. If it's going to be that long. It made me so mad. So I was like, come on. So there's I saw a countdown already for Stranger Things 2. Like, it's way too high. The number's too high.
Yeah, you get the Nintendo Switch commercial, just basically giving you Zelda, and some other stuff. They had some funny stuff in there and whatnot. But it's the commercials. They have not been anything like Ride Home About for a few years now, but still, you get the good ones in there every now and then. But yeah, this I think the Super Bowl over delivered as far as the whole package. But now it's kind of sad. We're in the off season now technically, and I guess before we go, we do have off season news to talk about. Kyle Shanahan officially now San Francisco 49ers head coach. John Lynch, the GM. I mean, you're going to have to overhaul that roster.
I feel bad for both of them.
Do you do anything with Kaepernick at this point? I mean...
Well, he's going to opt out and obviously try to go somewhere else. And I don't think Shanahan wants to touch him. Not just because of the political stuff, but I don't think that's the kind of quarterback that he wants. I mean, he wants somebody that go in the quarterback. I mean, see a report today that basically his wish list are Matt Schaub, of all people, Kirk Cousins, and Jimmy Garoppolo.
Hold on, Matt Schaub is still in the rotation as a quarterback? I figured he would have, retired by now.
Yeah, but for whatever reason. but that's because he's the backup for Atlanta right now.
Yeah.
So as far as your first quarterback, I'm sure the goal is to draft a young quarterback and groom him up, but his wish list are Cousins, Garoppolo, and Schaub, and those are more pocket quarterbacks. So I don't think Kaepernick has a spot there. But to me, I have
the big
no
rumor
idea.
right now is that Garoppolo could go to the Browns. But
either way, listen, wherever Garoppolo goes, whoever gets him is taking the biggest gamble of the offseason. Right?
Yeah, because he could turn into Matt Castle, who was fine for the Chiefs for a little while, and then he turned into Matt Castle that we know now. Or he could be Brock Osweiler, who just sucks out loud from the beginning. Or he could actually be pretty good. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm not saying that he's going to be bad, but it's the biggest gamble. I mean, what?
Even a bigger gamble than Deshaun Watson.
No, yeah, I think so. It would be a bigger gamble because
I'm surprised Shanahan hasn't even talked about because if Browns take Garoppolo, then Watson will be sitting there at 2.
But again, I wouldn't be taking Watson in the first 10 picks. I'm a guy that just quarterbacks get drafted, get pushed up draft boards in ridiculous fashion, especially the way drafts work now and the way fans and teams expect that if we're taking a quarterback in the top 10, he must start.
Right,
now.
but I mean, we're not even talking about the deep QB class that we had this year. We're talking about Deshaun Watson, and there's everybody else.
There's other names out there. We're a ways away, so we'll be breaking those down. But listen, I just want to bring up, speaking of the draft, I guess that's a pretty good segue. I have no idea if this story is even legit. It was a conversation I had during the Super Bowl party I was at. That another reason why I fear for Shanahan going to the 49ers, mostly for him, and same with John Lynch, was the fact that Chip Kelly wanted Dak Prescott, and the owner told him no.
Ooh.
And vetoed him. Again, I have no idea if that story is true, but if it is, I wouldn't want to be part of that ownership.
Well, I mean, but you're also talking about it. You brought this up when, and Dak Prescott wound up beating Zeke for the Offensive Rookie of the Year, or whatever, Offensive Player of the Year.
Stupid.
But I mean, or Offensive Rookie of the Year, I should make simple, because Matt Ryan did the double. Winning Best Offensive Player and MVP, but and also got to give props to Joey Bosa. He held out, and he sure as hell earned his keep in the holdout. So, but yeah. Anyway, I also think it's ridiculous. But do you put Dak with? You got to think about all the talent Dak had around him.
No, I'm not saying if you put Dak in San Francisco, they go 14-2. But your quarterback options in San Francisco at the draft
terrible.
Were Kaepernick and Gabbert. It wasn't like you had Romo, who the only reason Prescott got in there was because Romo got hurt again. And listen,
I wonder why the 49ers haven't talked about Romo. If you're Shanahan, why wouldn't you even entertain the idea of having Romo there?
I don't know. I mean, other than injury risk. I mean, obviously, his two of the 3 that were on his wish list were younger guys, and then Matt Schaub, just because he's worked with him and knows his style. But honestly, that's it. It's going to be injury risk. Wherever Romo goes, that's what you have to worry about, and you better make sure that your backup's good, too.
I think that's why, honestly, the best shot for him is the Broncos, where you already know what you got behind him. So if Romo gets hurt, even though it'd be kind of unfair to Trevor Siemian and Paxton Lynch, you are trying to win right now, even though I think DeMarcus Ware's already talked about, well, I might go back to the Cowboys, but, he's an injury liability himself. Other than that, I mean, you've pretty much got the same team, and that might be his best shot to win. I don't know, going to San Francisco or going...
No, I don't think Romo would want that.
I mean, Arizona, you know what can happen with Palmer at any moment, but then you get another guy that's just the same thing. So, we'll talk about
honestly,
that
like
more,
you said,
but.
Denver is interesting. Arizona is somebody I hadn't even thought about, but that is very interesting. What if Roethlisberger retires? Does Romo
If you're Romo, if Roethlisberger retires, make that play.
Yeah.
I know you don't want to send me to Pittsburgh, Jerry Jones, but you said I could pick my team.
I'll just say it right now, the day of the Super Bowl, because I know the history. My prediction is Tony Romo will be a New York Jet.
Really?
Yes. Because the Jets want to make the splash move. They do it all the time.
I hope it didn't turn into another Brett Favre situation for you.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It's Brett Favre, Tim Tebow, that big free agent quarterback. The Jets just can't help themselves.
Well, as long as he doesn't get hit, he'll be fine. So.
And you know what? Obviously, I hated the fact that Brett Favre got hurt and didn't tell anybody. But Brett Favre was great at the start.
True.
They started 8-3, and then he tore up his shoulder and didn't tell anybody. So if Romo could go 8-3, and then we'll know when Romo gets hurt because he's going to be laying there. He doesn't try to fight through it like Brett Favre. Maybe our backup could to lead us the rest of the way. So that's what I'm saying.
You never know. I mean, Romo could go 8-3, and maybe you lose the last couple, but you still get in the playoffs, and let's see what happens. But yeah, I mean, a lot of interesting stuff to talk about for the off season, but just I guess looking back now at the season as a whole, I mean, anything that you go, man, I'm really gonna remember this season for me, I think all the rookies that played really well this season. I mean, you're going to have your Dax and Zekes and, Carson Wentz for the beginning of the season that he kind of petered out. But, I mean, Joey Bosa was fantastic for the Chargers. Noah Spence was pretty good. I mean, you had several guys that you go, man, Keanu Neal for the Falcons, he was tremendous. The Deion Jones guy for the Falcons as well. I mean, I think there probably is others if you really examine it, but the rookies were I think, over-delivered for what you could have asked for from them.
Yeah, I think the best way you can wrap up the 2016-2017 season is the fact that the changing of the guard has not happened just yet, but when it does, we're still in good hands. Like you said, the young talent really shined this year with a lot of those names that you said, had in people that didn't have as great of years, but we're right up there with Winston. Mariota was great before he got hurt. We have a lot of young quarterbacks that really are starting to take that next step forward. Some really young defenses that are just starting to make moves. A couple teams that feel like they're a step or two away, but in the end, that old guard's still there with New England and Pittsburgh and Green Bay going, just hold on just a second, we're still here.
Yeah, and Seattle's kind of in that same mixture of we've still got some of these old guys, but our quarterback is still on the young side and whatever. So it's gonna be fun next year, obviously, but next season is still be in the same year. But yeah, I think overall 2016 was a fun year. It was really a year where you saw parity until you got to the playoffs, and then people really separated themselves. And you saw some dominant teams. The Cowboys obviously didn't live up to the hype. That's usually what happens with them. But hey, that team is set for a while, and Falcons are gonna look good for a while, and all these teams that made the playoffs, you could still see them contending. And it's gonna be an interesting year. I mean, is Kirk Cousins gonna be Kirk Cousins again for next year? He says he's already ready to sign another franchise tag. So hope he can keep betting on himself. But this 2017 already looking bright. But this Super Bowl was fantastic. Hopefully other than just being a total Patriots hater, I guess, and even Randy, who's not a Patriots fan by any means, still willing to admit that this was a crazy game and everything. So which officially I'm going to announce that until things start kicking up for the draft, we're going to go to one show a week because there's really no need to have two shows with the season not being in play. So we're going to, you'll hear from us again on the Thursday night, Friday morning spot, and we'll talk about whatever's been happening in the off season and everything else in that first week of it. But until then, everybody, enjoy your Monday morning, afternoon, Tuesday, whenever you're listening to this, and we'll see you then.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.